Welcome to the latest edition of the Codcast with me, Andrew Snaith. Very pleased to say that from the Whitby Town media team, Paul Connolly and Liam Ryder alongside me as well. Obviously, we start with the disappointing result from Saturday, gentlemen. Liam, starting with yourself. Obviously, we were pretty optimistic after that draw at Prescott Cables. We'd stopped the run of defeats. And then we go and put in a pretty flat performance in the FA Trophy.
Yeah, that's Whitby Town in a nutshell, isn't it? The hope that kills you. Like you said, the Prescott game, it was a real promising performance. Yes, we perhaps lacked that final bit in front of goal, but done a whole lot of positive to take from that one. You're just hoping going into that Heaven game and the trophy that it's a chance to try and push on, build on that performance, and ultimately go for an FA Trophy. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that, and we slipped back to our old tricks again of being a bit flat and lack of ideas, barring a brief spell after half time, which obviously got us the equaliser and a couple of chances after that. But it's just one of those that in the end the match sort of petered out from Whitby's perspective. Hebba didn't really do a lot in the second half either, other than get that goal that shows that happens when you shoot. A bit of a disappointing one. It's one of those, you have a decent FA Cup run, then maybe you can sort of let the trophy go. But as it was, there was a lot on that match really, and ultimately we've fallen short, which is bitterly disappointing.
Absolutely. I think it was Gary Liddle was trying to keep a bit of consistency. Nothing much he could have done with the enforced changes. Matthew Timon and Frankie Whelan unavailable. He kept himself in there, Paul. I don't think there's much more he could have done with the selection, but certainly that first half performance was pretty poor.
Yeah, it was. It's something that Gary sort of referenced in his interview about sort of consistency and building on decent performances, which ultimately we didn't do in that first half after the Prescott game. Obviously, Matty Timon was missing, Frankie Whelan was missing, so it sort of had to shuffle the pack around and have Leighton Watts leading the line. I don't know really. It was a struggle. I think we struggled to really have a focal point, didn't we, in the opening 45 minutes? Nothing really went up to the right end of the field and stuck. And don't get me wrong as well, look, that's not on Leighton Watts completely. The quality of the balls towards him and up into him and into those attacking players in the wide areas obviously needs to be better, and the final product needs to be better as well. We had a couple of occasions where it's something I was speaking about with Matty Timon before the game and trying to almost be direct without pumping the ball forward. And one instance that Gary Liddle taking over the ball and spraying a lovely ball out to the right hand side to Jarrett Rivers. He did that a couple of times in the first half, but then we never really made anything of it beyond that. And we just we lacked ideas around the final third compared to where we were on Tuesday night against Prescott. So it was disappointing, and there's a lot to stew over still, and I know Gary certainly has been and certainly still is as we speak, and obviously training tonight will maybe give him a few answers as to who might be available and who won't be for the weekend. But I think the big thing was lacking a focal point up top, and ultimately having that quality of the balls into those players up there as well.
Indeed, and as Paul mentioned, he spoke to Gary Liddle later on this week.
So Gary, head to Ashton United this weekend, Whitby Town, in the pitching Northern Premier League. But just first of all, reacting again to that Heaven Town match last weekend in the FA Trophy, and ultimately a disappointing exit.
Yeah, it obviously, the exit obviously means we go out of both cups, which is, it's not ideal. We know how important cup competitions are for the club and for non-league clubs on the whole, really, for the rewards that it can bring financially and for the the break that it can bring from the league in terms of the excitement around draws and stuff like that. So no, we were really disappointed to go out of the competition. Obviously, we went into it on the back of a decent performance against Prescott, so we were just hoping to take the momentum from that game into Heaven as is seems to be the norm at the moment. We just didn't get the performance that we were looking for, especially in the first half. We're just looking for those consistency levels from that Prescott game and carry them over into the Hebburn game. But as I just mentioned, they didn't quite seem to be there in that first half, especially. No, it was it was a bit flat at the end. There's no real energy to us, and it probably took to half time when we could we could say what we wanted to say and maneuver a few things around tactically, and then came out second half. I thought we'd done all right second half, without being overly threatening. We obviously got the goal. We had a good go at them, but we penned them in quite a lot. But I think a lot of our play was in and around their box, and we just couldn't find that way through. And the chances we did have, obviously, we either scuffed or the keeper was on hand to save them. So, no, a disappointing exit, and no, an improvement is obviously needed going into this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned that first half being quite flat. I mean, for you particularly, Gary, that must be particularly frustrating considering the number of chances that would be created against Prescott on Tuesday night. You think going into the Hebburn game, you would get something similar, hopefully, but it just didn't seem to come in that first 45.
Yeah, you hope it can, as I just mentioned earlier, you hope that momentum and the positivity from that Prescott game can overflow into the next game, and we can get some rhythm and get some consistency to performances. But no, I just think I'm quite realistic in terms of where we are and the league we play in. That the likelihood is, unless you're fighting at the top end of the league where you have that consistency, you're not going to find them. We are a club who, unfortunately, we win games, we draw games, and we lose games, and that's unfortunately the way it's been throughout this first quarter of the season. Ideally, we want to get into a winning mentality, or at least not losing games like we have been. But we'll keep striving for that. We'll keep hoping for that and keep working hard for that. And hopefully it will come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, one positive from that game, Jarrett Rivers getting his first Whitby Town goal. Certainly a positive on that front, but less so that he had to come off straight after that. Is there any update on Jarrett there?
Yeah, he's. I mean, I'm just on my way to training now, and I've spoken to Jarrett today, and I've gave him. He's had to pull out of training and stay away from the training ground tonight. So he won't be available for Saturday. It's just an ongoing problem Jarrett's got. He obviously, I'm really pleased for him. He scored a good goal on the day. But as soon as he did score that, he said to me straight away, he's struggling with his chest a little bit. I don't remember pre-season, he came off with a chest niggle at Gisborough, and he's just never seemed to fully recover from that. He trains well, he trains hard, and he's a really, really fit lad. But he's just got this niggle in his chest. He's had tests, he's had scans, and he has got the all clear, but while he's got this little pain or this little upset in his chest area, we certainly can't take any chances with it. And no, I think he's seeing the doctor tomorrow, and he'll fill me in, with the details and the information the doctor gives there. But hopefully, thinking more of Jarrett, that he's healthy and he's back out there sooner rather than later.
No, absolutely agree with that one, Lids. A couple of players that missed out then against Hebburn going into this week, and Gary Ashton is one of those being Frankie Whelan and Matty Tyman. Any update on those two?
Yeah, Frankie is training tonight, so I'm hoping he comes through that unscathed, and he's available for Saturday, because we're a better team when Frankie's involved, and he's certainly a big miss. It certainly gives my old legs a breather when he is available, and we're obviously missing Guinness as well. So Guinness, he'll train tonight as well, and hopefully comes through unscathed, and I've got a full defensive quarter to choose from. On Tyman, Ty's just he's got this plantar fascia, which is just underneath the foot area. He's got this ongoing niggle which needs managing, and it's just going to be a training session by training session and a game by game situation with Ty. And if he feels in pain, then it's going to be one of those where we are going to have to leave him to rest. But in the games where he feels okay and willing to get out there and help us, then that's great.
Yeah. And then obviously we mentioned there it is Ashton United this weekend, a trip to Hurst Cross. I think the only away game of October, Lids. Yeah, I mean it's always a difficult trip going over there, and it's not been a happy hunting ground for the last couple of years for Whitby.
No, it certainly wasn't last season. But no, we've obviously got massive improvement, not only to make on the last game against Hebben, but on that game last season at Ashton. It was a really difficult day for us, and it just, they're a good team. I think Cunny's done a good job there in the years he's been there, and they're always fancied to be in and around those playoffs, as I'm quite sure that there will be again this season. So a tough game, as they always are, but we've gone to places this season like your Lancasters, like your Ilkestons, and pulled off, if you like, surprise results, and we'll be hoping to do that again.
Definitely, and obviously it's a chance as well to arrest a run of 6 games without a win, Lids. Obviously it's one of those runs where you obviously don't want to make too much of it, but you want to sort of nip it in the bud as quickly as you can.
Yeah, it's, we go through these runs, don't we, as a football club, and every team will go through them. It's just, trying to get that win as quick as possible. I think over the first 10 games, I said to the lads, over the first 10 games, we've managed to get 11 points, and then now it's about the next 10 games, which takes us to the halfway point of the season, and hoping we can better that 11 points. And if we can do that, we'll certainly put ourselves in a good position.
And you certainly got the chance to do so as well with 3 home games after this one this weekend.
Yeah, we've got a good run of fixtures. It seems like we've played a lot of away games this season, so it'd be good to get back at the tour bar for a few weeks in a row. So no, looking forward to that. We're hoping to go into those on the back of a good result this weekend, away to Ashton, and some exciting games as well against well fancied teams who are expected to be up the top end of the division. And so it'll be a good test for us, and hopefully one that we can first of all get some points from, but hopefully build some real confidence and momentum from.
That was Gary Liddle, who caught up with Paul during the midweek, later on after his interview on Saturday. So some new content on there. So I'm going to try and focus on a few positives, but I think there was a few. I mean, first of all, great to see Jarrett Rivers score his first Whitby goal, albeit followed very unfortunately that he had to leave the field. I mean, that's a huge blow, and that's how I think you start to think it's not going to be your day when we finally do score the goal, we level the game, and then the goal scorer has to go off within seconds. But it was good to see him scoring, and also good to see Lewis Hawkins back on the field, Liam.
Yeah, definitely. I feel really sorry for Jarrett Rivers because, not just him personally, but, for the club as well. We brought him in and he was deemed very much a coup of a signing. I know a lot of Darlington fans are disappointed to see him leave, which says a lot when you've got a team in the division above, that their fans are, quite upset that the player has left. So, and we're seeing glimpses of that quality here, but unfortunately this sort of chest issue just seems to keep plaguing him, which is a real shame and a real bit of concern for Jarrett on a personal level in terms of his future career as a footballer as well. First of all, wish him well. Hopefully it's nothing too bad. But yeah, in terms of his performance, I don't think we got him into the game as much as we maybe wanted to in the first half. But then getting that goal, his first for the club, you think it's a chance there to try and kick on. But like you said there, it just didn't work out that way, having to come on straight after. So a contribution which was obviously key. But yeah, sad to see him have to go off again after that. But then another positive though, Lewis Hawkins, great, even if it was just a cameo. I mean, he got most of the second half and perhaps came on a bit earlier than was maybe intended with the way things were going. But yeah, I think it's just key to see him back because the injury he got at FC United and Manchester, it was a worry one at first. He didn't look good at all, and you worry that maybe he could be out for a lot longer period of time. So to have him back, less than 2 months after, I think is a massive bonus, and really pleasing for him and the club to have him back available, because I think the quality he possesses in that midfield, that experience, it's vital for us, and it does feel like he's the sort of player that we have really missed over the last couple of months.
Indeed, and he came on for Michael Woods, who caught up with Paul earlier this week.
So, Michael, defeat on Saturday afternoon and an exit from the FA Trophy for Whitby Town against Hebburn. Just obviously take us back to Saturday afternoon and give us your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sickener, to be honest. I think in the league game at home, I think we let ourselves down against them. We felt like we owed them one, to be honest. I think the first half was poor, if we're going to be brutally honest. Didn't think they created a lot, but we were second best. I didn't think we created much and didn't look much of a threat at all. And then I think coming out second half, I thought we started really well. I thought we penned them back in. I think we deservedly got the goal. And then, it felt like we were, going to go on and win the game. I certainly felt like we were the side in the ascendancy. It felt like a much different game than the first half. And then sort of against the run of play a little bit, that sucker punch of their goal, and it just knocked the stuffing out of us. I think there's got to be ways that we can be more consistent during the 90-minute period to be more threatening. I think possession-wise, there was probably nothing in it again first half, but we just didn't. The amount of times we got into certain areas, and I'm not picking on departments here. I'm not picking on strikers and forwards and wide men. Whether it's us in midfield or full backs getting in positions for crosses or cutbacks and whatnot. We have to do more with sort of our final bit of quality, our final ball, our decision making to, ultimately create a chance or get something threatening towards goal. So yeah, it was a bit of a sucker punch, because obviously we've not had much luck in the cup competitions this year, and like I said, I felt like after getting the goal back and the equaliser, I felt like we were really going to go on and win the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you mentioned the word there, consistency, Woodsy. We look back at sort of last Tuesday night, we'd be creating plenty of chances. It didn't quite drop in front of goal, and then going into sort of the first half, as you mentioned as well on Saturday, not really anything created. I mean, it is a little bit alarming, isn't it, as well, that Whitby sort of can't find that consistency between games and even halves of football.
Yeah, definitely. I think it sort of sums up. I'm not passing the buck on here by all means, because we've got a great manager and we've got a great staff around him who have allowed us that freedom to go and play. And I think it's easy to pass the buck on as players. I think sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and take responsibility. For your own individual performance firstly, and then the teams. But I think going back to the consistency, I don't think there's going to be, in years gone by, there's you've had your South Shields, your Macclesfields, your Radcliffes that have consistently picked up points every week and ran away with it. This year it seems like everyone's beating everyone, and it is just literally going to be that team that finds the most consistency. And I'll go back to it. It comes down to us as a collective in the dressing room. I think we have to take individual responsibility to be better. I do think we've been well in games and well on top where we've not scored or taken opportunities. The Prescott game, prime example. I felt like we were the better team, but all that was lacking was putting the ball in the back of the net. Whether it's fullbacks in crossing positions, whether it's midfielders creating more, or whether it's strikers and forwards with a bit more end product. As a team, we have to be better, consistently at creating chances. And it's frustrating, isn't it? Because you look towards the beginning of the season, the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, we were, it felt like we were free throwing and we were going to score loads of goals, and it has dried up at the minute. There's no doubt about that. So we do have to sort of look in the mirror and all do better for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of obviously the dressing room and the mood and everything around that, I mean, how is that at the moment? 'Cause it is a bit of a difficult spell for Whitby at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no getting away from it. Results have been nowhere near. I think the Prescott game. I think there's been certain games where we should have taken something from. I think the Stocksbridge one was probably the lowest point, to be honest. I think there was a few hard truths said after that game. But football waits for no one. It's a ruthless game, and ultimately, if you're not doing it and you're not stepping up, then someone will come in and take your place. It's as simple as that. So I think it's easy to point fingers. Points, very often players are last down the line to accept responsibility, but we have to do that. Like I said, we've got a good manager, we've got good staff around him who'll give us a freedom to go and play.
No, definitely. Then it's a trip to Ashton United then on Saturday, a chance to hopefully put things right for Whitby. But yeah, that's going to be another difficult afternoon. But obviously, we can say that about every game in the MPL.
Oh, big time. I think I know a few of the boys at Ashton. They're out, former teammates. I think they've had a good go this year. I think their budget will be one towards, the top end of the league. Like you said, there's no easy game, particularly away from home, but it's an important block, isn't it? I think we've got Ashton away, and I think there's a little run of home games where, we need to produce performances and ultimately results and points. So yeah, we're under no illusions. Starting Saturday, it's a real tough game, but like we said before, it goes back to that consistency. I think if someone finds any sort of certain level of performance on their day, anyone can beat anyone. You look at the fixtures every week, and you think, top will go and beat bottom, and then how often do you see it? It's the result goes the other way. So it's down to us. It's still early on, but we don't want to be looking over our shoulders. There's games coming thick and fast, and you put a run of 3 or 4 results together. You're soon looking above yourselves rather than over your shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ashton going to it winless in 5, Whitby winless in 6 as well. So, I mean, look, you would think that perhaps something could give on the afternoon. But yeah, just important to go there and look to get a decent result, isn't it?
Big time. I think you've got to go in with that belief as well. Like I said, everyone seems to be beating everyone. There's no one that's going away and running away with it and winning every week. So it's down to us. I'm still a firm believer that when we're at it, I think we proved that earlier on in the season. When we're at it, Stockton at home are at the top end of the league. When we're at it and we're firing, we're more than a match for anyone at this level. We just have to find that consistency.
That's Michael Woods speaking to Paul. Paul, we've got the draw for the first round proper of the North Riding Senior Cup.
It's a trip to Grangetown in looking like November, as it is. So yeah, it'd be the Whitby under-18s contest in that one this season. So we'll be slightly different, but it'll be good for the young lads as well to get a real taste of sort of men's football in a Whitby Town shirt. So I'm sure they'll all be looking forward to that.
I was going to say that the Scholars team have been doing particularly well, Paul. Barnsley and Sunderland put to the sword in the last few weeks.
Yeah, the National Football League Youth Cup. That's or something along those lines. It's some variation of that, the name of it anyway. But yeah, some great results. Obviously, the latest one against the Sunderland side to get through to the next round. But obviously, yeah, I think the first round a 4-0 win over Barnsley. So yeah, absolutely full of confidence, and great to see Whitby lads on the score sheet as well. Jack Kilpatrick being one of those in yesterday's game. So yeah, really bright start to that competition for the Whitby Scholarship side, and long may it continue, and they have a good run.
Absolutely. We look ahead to Saturday then, and it's a trip to Ashton United. It's one that's often a tricky one, let's put it that way. And one man who was involved with one a couple of seasons back, Jake Charles, that 4-1 defeat there a couple of years back. Sorry to drag up some bad memories for everyone. My car broke on the way back from that. That was, you thought you had a bad day. Now, Jake Charles caught up with Liam earlier on.
Well, Charlo, it's been a bit of a tough past month or so. I think no wins since the 6th of September. Obviously exiting 2 cup competitions as well. Just how tough going has it been for you as a squad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously results haven't been going our way as of late. I think the issue for us at the minute, which Lids has spoke about with us, is the consistency of our performances. It's no good just performing and doing well for 20 minutes of the game. It's a full 90 minutes, and we need to turn, good halves into full games really. And I think as a team being collectively, 7, 8, 9 out of 10, you need 3 or 4 of them every week in order to get the results. But I do believe that we are literally just on the edge of picking up a few results and getting the ball rolling again and getting ourselves up the league table.
Yeah, and I guess the matches you probably look at in terms of those good performances, probably Stockton at home and then Prescott at home as well, where both matches we drew in the end, but the performances were certainly there and the attacking intent was there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even in our league, it's fine margins. You can miss a chance at one end and literally 15, 20 seconds later, the ball's in your own box and the other team score. So we've got to be ruthless in both boxes and we'll get there. It's just going to be after we're doing it the hard way at the minute. The league table is pretty tightly packed together still. I think we're 10, 11 points off top of the league, and you get yourself on a run of 3 or 4 games where you're picking up points, you can easily climb that league.
Yeah, and I think as well, the league is one thing, but I suppose extra disappointing the fact in both cups, the FA Cup and the FA Trophy, that you've had fellow MPL Premier Division sides in there and ultimately lost out with 2 performances. Like you said, that the Hyde match maybe more so, but the Hebburn game, it did have a positive moment, especially after half time. But like you say, just keeping that consistently is probably what's let us down in both of those matches.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, we want to win these games. We want to do well in these competitions and earn the club, sorry, financial rewards of progressing in these competitions, and we want to do it for the fans as well. So obviously, we're disappointed as well that we're out of these competitions. But we have. I know it's cliche. Everyone says we'll have to focus on the league, but that is literally what we have to do. We have to focus on the next game and get that consistency in our performances, and get ourselves up that league table and keep pushing forwards.
Yeah, and what do you feel that you as a squad, can do to try and get the fans, not back on side as such, but you may have seen a few comments sort of a bit frustrating to being out of the cup so early. So, what do you feel you can do to try and really get them back, behind the club? And I suppose, getting a few wins will probably be a good start towards that.
Absolutely, I think as a team, the fans want to see us working hard week in week out, and none of the lads are not doing that. We're all working hard, and sometimes things don't go your way. We've just got to keep going in these tough times, keep pushing through. The fans are entitled to their opinion, of course they are. They pay the hard-earned money to come and watch us and support the club, so it's gonna have to come from us as players, and we believe that we can definitely get points on the board and get moving up that league table. We're just going to have to, as I said, be consistent with performances and be ruthless when we're taking our chances and when we're defending our own box as well.
Yeah, and how have you found it personally as well in recent weeks? There's been a lot of discussion about sort of whether it be yourself, Matty Timon, or perhaps both of you at the same time playing. A bit of chopping and changing going on. It just seems whatever we go, if it's not, whatever reason, not quite clicking up there. So, how have you found it personally when you have been brought into the side and, in quite a few difficult matches as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously as a striker, first and foremost, your job's to score a goal, and me and Matty haven't. We both had chances, but we've probably both feel like we could have had a few more goals. Now, obviously, it comes down to style of play. We're both different strikers. We both want to play every game, and obviously, it's the personnel that Lids has, on offer. We've had injuries to certain players. Obviously, Leighton's come back fit. I had a little spell out. Matty's had a little spell out with a couple of niggly injuries. So, it'll all come together. I think it's just finding the system that works for us. Obviously, I want to play as long as I can and as many minutes as I can, especially after being out for 9 months last season. So I've seen what it's like on the other side when you're not playing, I did miss it an awful lot, and I want to be on that pitch as much as I can, helping Whitby climb the league table.
Yeah, and it doesn't get much easier the next couple of matches, two in a space of 3 or 4 days, really, with the Saturday Tuesday turnaround. First of all, a trip to one of your former clubs, Ashton United, and then Hensford at home as well on Tuesday night. So 2 tough matches, but I guess you're going to look at the Ashton match perhaps as they're also a bit vulnerable because they're not in the best of form themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just ourselves that are going through a tough patch. This league is pretty much an even keel this season. It's like I said, if you get on a run of matches winning, you can easily climb up that league. So we're taking each game as it comes. We'll go to Ashton on Saturday, work hard, do our best shot, and obviously go there to try and win the game and bring the points back and get our season going and climbing up that league table.
Yeah, and then just going off on a slight bit of a tangent as we're on the theme of Ashton. Obviously, your time there was brief, just on loan, but it does seem that it's a club obviously under the Steve Cunningham management as well. Just what is he like to work under? Because he comes across as quite a character from the outside. I'm sure he's quite an interesting manager to work for.
Yeah, do you know something? I really enjoyed my time at Ashton. Obviously, I went on loan there from Scarborough for, I think it was probably about three months in total.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a great manager to play for. They kind of play quite an attacking style of football. They've got some good technical players in that team as well. Obviously, his assistant manager, Sean Newton, he's playing, and still when I was there was, absolutely outstanding for them. So it's going to be a tough game for us. And I'm sure Cunny will have his team set up to beat us in a certain way. But, I think for us, we've got to go there and, as I said, put in a good performance and try and bring the 3 points back. That's what we've got to do now. Every game, take each game as it comes and go from there.
Yeah, and then just finally, I know you obviously like to take it just a game at a time, but then that Tuesday night game at home to Hensford, on paper they look a very strong team for the level. But do you feel that it's a chance to perhaps really sort of utilise the fact they've got a mammoth trip to make in that midweek?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not ideal on their part coming up to the North Yorkshire coast, but these are all factors that we have to take in non-league football. You finish work early, you've got to make the trips to the away games. I'm sure we're going to have a few of them at some point throughout the season. So yeah, it's 11v11 at the end of the day, and we'll certainly be on the pitch trying to win our individual battles and pick up 3 points in that game as well. But yeah, on to Ashton on Saturday, and then we'll look at the Hensford game after that.
That's Jake Charles speaking to Liam, hopefully picking his brains ahead of that game against Ashton United. We have, of course, got live commentary on This Is the Coast Extra from 3 on Saturday. And Paul, then it's a midweek clash at home against Hensford Town.
Yeah, they don't get any easier, do they? These Northern Premier League matches. But yeah, look, that's going to be a long journey for Hensford on Tuesday night, coming up from the Midlands. How they're in this division is crazy, quite frankly. After we thought we'd rejig the pyramid to work against that, it seems to have come back round and bitten us with Hensford and Rushall a little bit. But look, they're making a very long journey on Tuesday night, so we'd have to be alert to that and have to try and play that to advantage. We know Hensford are a good side, but you've got to play every advantage that you can. And yeah, hopefully Whitby can manage to come away with something on that, and in what will be a very tough home game on Tuesday night.
Indeed. Liam, quickly and finally, an update on the club shop, going well, and of course the obligatory mention of booster budget.
Yeah, so the club shop itself, we're finally getting there with the pre-orders on the home and away shirts. A couple of orders outstanding, unfortunately, but that was more just due to us being short on 2 particular sizes. But we're getting there, so that's the main thing on that. And in general, the rest of the shirts, or the ones we've got sufficient stock of, they're now back online for immediate order. There's only a small selection at the moment, but again, another order has been placed, so there'll be more available in the coming weeks. And you can buy pretty much anything that's in the club shop. So yeah, if you are an exile, as I like to call them, or anybody that's just wants a bit of football merchandise, just head to the Whitby Town website, whitbytownfc.com, and the club shop, and it's pretty much all on there. Other than the things that are breakable, i.e. mugs. Had too many issues of those in the past, so we've not. But yeah, everything else on there. So just take a look, see what takes your fancy, and we'll get it sorted. And then yeah, in terms of bringing other funds in a separate account to boost the budget, I know we've got the most recent total last week, pushing on for $2,000 now. So that's going to be welcome. I'm sure as the winter kicks in and maybe more injuries take the toll, that we might be looking to try and turn to that to help bring somebody in, whether it be permanent or a loan. So yeah, again, just to donate to that, it's the whitbytownfc.com club shop. You can make a pledge in there, or also just get in touch with us via social media for the account details, just to make a one-off donation. But yeah, whatever you can manage, greatly appreciated. More so by Gary Liddle and than us lot, I'm sure.
Indeed. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you to you for listening. We'll be back next week with all the fallout from those big games. Remember, it's Ashton away on Saturday, live commentary on This Is the Coast Extra from 3, and then Hensford live at the Torbay Express Stadium. Get down there in person if you can on the Tuesday. Bye for now.